Good morning, beautiful people. Hope that you're having an amazing day. If you're awake, we're going to recap the Kirk trial preliminary hearing day 4. This one's what? Oh, okay, Doc. Good morning. Can you put that under one of my videos? Because I usually don't rewatch my streams. Like under my community wall, I'll watch it. Charlie Kirk, the right-wing activist that lost his life for talking about his conservative views. I'm so invested in this trial. Everything I choose for educational and for use purposes. I'm gonna get right into the video. So I won't be with you guys long tonight. I want to watch that the video right now. What's good, Ronnie? Ronnie, where you been? How you doing, Ronnie? I'm gonna get to my video. I hope you guys like my recap. If you missed the trial, I got you. Because I'm going to recap it for you right now.
She's live for us at the courthouse in Provo, Utah. Claudia.
Trace, it has been a grueling 4 days for Erica Kirk, and today, when that graphic evidence against her husband's accused assassin played out in court, she broke down into tears. Now, the courtroom camera is not allowed to show Erica Kirk, but our reporter in the courtroom says that when prosecutors showed text messages between Lance Twiggs and Tyler Robinson discussing Robinson wanting to get a hunting rifle, and later when Robinson talked about trying to retrieve the rifle he had left near campus but feared an officer might still be there, Erica started audibly crying. She was comforted by Charlie's mom, Catherine, who had her hand on Erica's arm. She was also in tears. And Tyler Robinson's mother, Amber, also wiping her eyes today. Keep in mind, she and her husband helped facilitate their son's surrender the day after Charlie Kirk was killed. But they have been here every day to support their son in court. While the Twiggs video played, Robinson listened in closely. Something he hasn't done a lot during these preliminary hearing proceedings, but he started squirming in his chair and scratching his nose when Twiggs talked about the Dremel in the house that Robinson wanted to borrow. Prosecutors say he used that tool to engrave messages into bullets. Others in the courtroom today were crying as well as prosecutors presented the most powerful evidence so far as they try to show there is probable cause to move this case to trial. Trace.
Claudia Cowan live for us outside the courthouse. Claudia, if the news comes in, we'll get back to you.
And if you can continue reading along.
Okay. And Tyler says, I'm still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I am sorry to involve you. And then Lance replies, you weren't the one who did it, right? And Tyler says, I am, I'm sorry. Lance says, I thought they caught the person. And then Tyler says, no, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from the drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering.
We could scroll down to page 3. Continue reading.
Lance says, why? And Tyler says, why did I do it? And Lance says, yeah. Tyler says, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they have moved on. I haven't seen anything in the news about them finding it. We'll update you shortly. We'll update you by midnight.
Provo, Utah. We've been listening to a lot of the evidence being presented there in the courtroom. It started off with the prosecution win that we had to not only hear but see the interview with Tyler Robinson's roommate and alleged lover. And then we saw the text messages. John, I think we all agree they are incredibly revealing about Tyler Robinson's intentions and what he clearly states in many of those alleged messages that he did.
You know, just to go back to where you started there, it was quite a surprise when Lance Twiggs popped up on the video, because we had been led to believe that we were going to hear audio and not see the video, that the court was going to see the video, and then boom, there he was. And I thought it was a mistake that the defense was suddenly going to jump on. But somewhere in there, I guess we missed something that Judge Graff said, where he allowed the video to be seen. So That was our first opportunity to see and hear Lance Twiggs speaking about the conversations that he had with Tyler Robinson in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination. Let's bring in James Galliano, retired FBI supervisory special agent and a Fox News contributor. You've been watching along with us here, James. Your impressions of what you heard from Lance Twiggs and that lengthy text exchange on Discord that really seemed to be nothing less than a confession on Tyler Robinson's part.
Yeah, we just got a preview of what the trial is going to be like. This trial is going to be lengthy. It's not going to be done in a week or two. And I am presuming that the judge is going to bound this over for trial by close of business tomorrow or sooner. The amount of evidence that the state has put forth and the way that they have tied in circumstantial evidence has been masterful. And look, let me just look at this really quickly from an investigator side.
Hey, Hoopty West, thank you for your donation the other day. I saw you, friend. How you doing?
Being able to watch Lance Twiggs, that's important for us to detect body language, tone, word choices. We're trying to determine the veracity of his comments. And then to tie that in with the actual Discord chat and the text messages, this is going to be an open and shut case. And the last thing that Agent Davis put out there in regards to Cellbrite, that's the means, the software that we have to basically break into an encrypted phone and get evidence off of that. And to do the timeline, we saw the digital imagery yesterday and the day before of Tyler Robinson's movements. Then we had Lance Twiggs testifying to his interactions with Tyler. And now you have the digital evidence. This is an open and shut case, masterfully done by the state.
And so much there, right, James? I mean, all the way down to that note that Tyler Robinson directed his roommate to go find underneath the keyboard after he carried out this alleged murder. This was Twiggs on that note from Robinson in the interview.
You talked about the note that he left. I want to bring this up, and I should say that these text messages that we've been looking at here are Bates number 54. Okay, the notes have been titled 16.3 with a note, and this is Bates number 58. Do you recognize that on the screen there?
Yeah.
What do you recognize it as?
That was the note under his keyboard that he was referring to in the first text of that chain.
Okay, so where did you find this?
On his desk underneath his computer keyboard.
Gosh, James, and you think about all that he revealed in just that note.
Yeah, two big things jump out at you right there. Premeditation and an acknowledgement of what he had done. And look, remember, the top charge in this case is aggravated murder. And for the aggravation piece of that, you've got to show some type of severity, cruelty, heinousness, depravity. This case has all those things. And I believe, this is my estimation, it's met that standard here. Yeah, this is damning. When you start tying in the stuff that has been digitally, forensically harvested, you put that together with the alleged suspect's own words, open and shut case.
All right. Well, James, we'll see which way it goes. One more day to go in this, as you said, unless the judge just calls it into it either today or early tomorrow. Thanks for bringing that to us. And stand by. We'll get back to you a little bit later on.
First, the towel. What was done with the towel?
The towel was packaged and then it was eventually provided to the FBI.
What was done with the firearm?
The firearm was also packaged and then provided to the FBI as well.
Did the firearm go to the FBI or the ATF?
Oh, sorry, correction. First it went to the FBI and then to be in their custody, and then it was then sent to the ATF lab.
Okay. And the rounds, the cartridge and cartridge cases, yep. Cartridge case.
Yes, all those were packaged, originally provided to the FBI, then was sent to the ATF lab.
Right, and were each of those items tested?
Yes, they were.
And in the testing, were they photographed?
Yes.
Have you reviewed the photo, and were they photographed by the ATF when they were tested?
Yes, they were.
Have you reviewed their photographs?
Yes.
And were you previously shown states exhibits 19, 20, 21, and 22?
Yes.
And are those photographs that the ATF or that you received back from the ATF of those cartridges and the cartridge case?
Yes.
Did they have the same appearance and etchings that you saw when you observed them removed from the gun?
Yes.
And did those photographs accurately capture those etchings?
Yes.
I move to admit states exhibits 19 through 22.
Mr. Byrd. All right, I'll note the standing objections. Those objections overruled, and 19, 20, 21, and 22 are admitted. Now as to publication, Mr. McBride.
I would move to publish these exhibits at all 3 levels.
All right, any further objection from? No further objection. Thank you. Again, I note the standing objections as are overruled. They may be published both in the courtroom and captured by the media camera.
Let us start with exhibit 19, please. What are we looking at here in exhibit 19?
This is the cartridge case that was recovered from the gun.
And what position was this in the gun?
This was this is what was in the chamber.
Okay, in the chamber, meaning that's where a cartridge is before or when it is fired, correct?
Yes.
Do you notice an inscription or an etching on this cartridge case?
Yes, I do.
Will you read what that says?
Yes. Notices bulge.
And if we can go down to page 2 of the exhibit, will you read what this says?
OWO, what's?
And to page 3?
This.
And question mark, correct?
Yes, question mark.
All right, if we go to State's Exhibit 20. Is this a photograph of one of the cartridges that was found in the gun?
Yes, it is.
And what are we looking at here in this view of page 1 on Exhibit 20?
This is the head stamp of it, and it says it is according to the head stamp, it is a Remington 30-06 Springfield.
Is that a different caliber than a .223 round?
Yes, it is.
Will you look at page 2 of Exhibit 20? Will you read the markings here?
A fascist.
And page 3?
Catch.
And page 4?
Up arrow, right arrow, down arrow, down arrow, down arrow.
All right, let's go to Exhibit 21. And was this another round that was found in the gun?
Yes.
Will you read the inscription here?
Oh, Bella Chow.
Page 2.
Chow, chow.
All right, let's go to Exhibit 22. Another round that was found from the gun, correct?
Yes.
Will you please read the letters here?
If you read.
Page 2.
This comma, your, or correction, this comma, you are.
Page 3.
Gay.
And page 4.
LMAO.
The only thing I can imagine is maybe perhaps some pieces of evidence might have been shown to him over that Zoom capability that they didn't want that shown. But otherwise, the video to me is innocuous as far as from a visual perspective. But one thing I did want to point out that I don't want to get overlooked is how important this video was and that interview was from a housekeeping perspective. And what I mean by is how he laid the foundation for so many other crucial pieces of evidence. The text messages, he's laying that foundation. There's no problem now about establishing who those are from and who received those. He's saying, yes, those are the text messages sent from the defendant to myself. The Discord messages, same thing. The letter, same thing. He's establishing the foundation for all of these to be admitted into evidence. And crucially, he is identifying Tyler Robinson on those video stills. No one else has been able to do this. He is saying, at least about as close as he was willing to get, that looks like Tyler Robinson. That is a huge piece of evidence because that entire surveillance now has foundationally been laid.
Okay, let's bring in Joshua Ritter. He is a Fox News contributor and criminal defense attorney. We talked at length about this earlier today, Josh, on America Reports. While Lance Twiggs seemed to suggest that Tyler Robinson did not appear overtly political in any of their discussions, he definitely, and we saw this in the text messages that were exchanged on Discord, saw Charlie Kirk as a purveyor of hate.
Yeah, that was an interesting moment during his testimony through that recorded statement where he said that he didn't hear him talk much about politics or even Charlie Kirk, whereas his text messages revealed that he was nearly obsessed with him. And even the etchings that he put on the bullets seemed to be that he was obsessing over this moment that he wanted to have in this assassination that was all targeted at this man, that he said that he just could no longer deal with his hate. So whatever conversations they may have had, how honest Lance Twiggs was being about all of that, I think it's very clear through the text messages, the Discord chats, the letter that he left behind, that he intended to kill Charlie Kirk because of the person that he was and what he stood for.
So in this interview, the things that really stuck out to me were the talk about the engraved bullet casings and apparently Tyler Robinson's reaction in court when that was brought up, the still images of Robinson on the campus and in the stairwell. And then when he asked Robinson in person, the day after the shooting and the day after they exchanged those messages, he got an in-person confession when Robinson said, yeah, it was me.
Yeah, so if you're counting, this is now an in-person confession, a confession over text messages, a confession over Discord, and a confession in a letter. That is a lot of times that a person has admitted their involvement in this murder, and at some point showed remorse over it, and at other points showed that he was proud over his actions. As far as connecting himself to this crime through his own words, either coming out of his mouth or through his own hand, he has certainly done a lot of the work for the prosecution. Add to that the case that we had from the rest of the week with the forensics regarding the surveillance and the DNA, and now today we had the bullets. It is a very, very powerful case that the prosecution has presented after resting just earlier this afternoon.
In those text messages, Tyler Robinson appeared to be very concerned about the rifle that he said that he dropped outside of the scene of the Charlie Kirk assassination. Here's a little bit of that exchange. He says, delete this exchange, first of all. Then he goes on to say, my dad wants photos of the rifle. He says, Grandpa wants to know who has what. The feds released a photo of the rifle, and it's very unique. He's calling me right now, not answering. I mean, when you put together the pieces of this puzzle, the purpose of the preliminary hearing is to find out whether or not this will be held over for trial. It would seem that the prosecution more than met their burden in holding this over.
I think absolutely. I mean, if they were simply going in to try to reach that low threshold, they probably met that on day 1 or 2. But bear in mind, too, this is a death penalty case. And so a lot of this evidence they're going to have to use later on to convince jurors after a conviction to put him to death, the greatest punishment that we have in this country. So some of this evidence about the etchings and understanding how he almost viewed this as a joke is going to go a long way with those jurors and might be part of the reason why prosecutors wanted to make sure that it was admissible at this point in the proceedings.
Just real quick for us, Josh, do you believe that this will ever get to trial, or do you think he'll cut some sort of a plea deal with the prosecution?
I think after this week, his team is probably seriously thinking about going to the prosecution and asking for that hat in hand. But it's up to the prosecution whether or not they want to take the death penalty off the table.
All right, we'll see where it goes. Josh Ritter, as always, thanks for the analysis. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And breaking tonight's scene for Martha starts right now.
John and Sandra, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Trace Gallagher in for Martha McCallum. This is the story. Tyler Robinson's former roommate says Robinson confessed to killing Charlie Kirk and said that he wished he hadn't done it. Lance Twiggs making that claim in an interview with investigators. Prosecutors playing the video today at the preliminary hearing to decide whether Robinson will go on trial. An agent also reading a text exchange between Twiggs and Robinson. Watch this.
Lance replies, "You weren't the one who did it, right?" And Tyler says, "I am, I'm sorry." And Lance says, "Why?" And Tyler says, "Why did I do it?" And Lance says, "Yeah." Tyler says, "I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out."
Criminal defense attorneys Donna Rotuno and Josh Ritter are at the courthouse, and constitutional attorney Jonathan Turley is standing by live. But first, Matt Finn is also live at the courthouse in Provo, Utah. Matt.
Hi, Trace. We just got some new details from one of our reporters inside of the courtroom who says that Tyler Robinson today was intently watching the video of Lance Twiggs' testimony, whereas Tyler Robinson had not been intently watching other previous videos, even turning his head away from the screen in earlier days. Also, his lead attorney, Kathy Nestor, has not been sitting directly next to him for the past 2 days. In previous proceedings, she had been sitting close to him, kind of comforting him at times. She has not been doing that the past 2 days. Also, our reporter in the courtroom says Erica Kirk was audibly crying today and that Robinson was squirming when Lance Twiggs discussed in the engraving of the bullets. Now, this is the first time in 10 months that we have heard from Lance Twiggs, who has largely been hidden from the public since the shooting last September. And in that video testimony today, Lance Twiggs testified that Tyler Robinson confessed to killing Charlie Kirk, and then afterwards says he wished that he had not.
Did he talk about what he had done?
Didn't go into detail. I just asked him in person if what he said was true the night before, and he said it was. I started crying a little bit and said he wishes he hadn't done it, and then kept going around and just doing stuff.
Twiggs testified that he and Robinson started dating a few months after moving in together. Twiggs says after the shooting on September 10th, Robinson was updating him in real time about trying to retrieve the rifle he left behind near the campus, which was ultimately recovered by law enforcement. An agent testified about texts that Robinson was sending to Twiggs.
Getting worried, hard to know for sure, but I'm not finding my rifle. Could be in the wrong spot. Lance says, "Do you think they found it?" And Tyler says, "Don't know. They haven't published anything if they have."
Twiggs also testified on video that he had not heard Tyler Robinson talk about Charlie Kirk before, and Robinson didn't really talk about LGBTQ and gender issues. If Robinson talked about politics, it was usually related to President Trump or current policies. The Twiggs says Robinson started engraving bullets for what he was describing as a hunting or a traveling trip about 1 month before Kirk was shot. Law enforcement says that those engraved bullets were recovered. And in court, Robinson was seen squirming when the bullets were discussed. Back to you.
Matt Finn, live for us at the courthouse. Matt, thank you. Let's bring in constitutional law attorney Jonathan Turley, GW law professor and Fox News contributor. Professor, it's great to have you on the show. What I don't get about this whole thing is we played the tape today in court. They played the tape today in court, and it was 20 minutes versus 37 minutes because there was a lot of redactions, a lot of things taken out of that. And the worry was that the defense kept saying, listen, the prosecution is going to say this is a confession. And then in the tape says at one point in time, Lance Twiggs says that Tyler Robinson, quote, started crying a bit, saying he wishes he hadn't done it. That's a confession. That's it right there. What were they trying to hide?
Well, it really comes across as confession by surrogate, and it's very compelling. I think most people watching today would wonder, why don't they just go to verdict? Because it's so overwhelming and it's so complete. What's interesting about this is that usually witnesses have only part of a picture. It's like looking through a prism, and you have to piece them together. This is really a witness that has it all. I mean, he has the premeditation in the form of a note left under a keyboard for him by Robinson, has a contemporary statement right after the shooting, an alleged confession, and that he repeats those statements the day afterwards. He has details that lay the foundation for all the evidence the prosecutors are going to be bringing in. I mean, I got to tell you, I've been a criminal defense attorney my whole career, and I've rarely seen anything like this. I mean, I can't see of any cognizable defense because he's obviously mentally competent. He was highly functioning. It was premeditated. He carried off an assassination for political purposes.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, as you look at this as a former defense attorney and as a law professor, when you look at the DNA and you look at the text messages and then you listen to the recording of Lance Twiggs, which to you, Professor, comes across as the most powerful? Which will have the most impact on the jury?
You know, it's interesting because at the end of the day, the DNA evidence on the weapon, the carvings on the bullets, those are going to be pretty darn dispositive for a jury. But I got to tell you, the thing that's really going to harden that jury is the rather matter-of-fact way in which he's texting his lover and saying, yeah, you know, and I'm really worried I won't get my grandpa's gun back. You know, he just killed a national leader, and he's just fretting about whether grandpa's gun is going to be taken by the police.
Yeah. Can I just put that up on the screen very quickly to give the context in here? This is what Professor Turley is talking about. It's in the Utah County charging documents. It says, quoting here, Twiggs, just stay safe. Robinson, I will. Robinson, I'm more worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. Robinson, he's far scarier than any Fed. I mean, that really is very compelling. Professor, stand by very quickly. I want to go back to Matt Finn live outside the courthouse because Matt has gotten some more information from inside the courthouse. Matt, what are we learning?
Trace, just more details coming from inside the courtroom from our digital reporter. When they got to the point discussing the rifle that was used, Tyler Robinson was squirming, apparently uncomfortable, swinging in his chair, scratching his nose. He looked uncomfortable with the texts that were being discussed. Also, Erica Kirk was looking down, leaning forward, not looking at the screen showing those texts. Our reporter also said Erica was audibly crying throughout the proceeding today. When they got to the part about Lance when he was asking Tyler about the rifle and for hunting, the very graphic detail about the nature of the gun that Robinson said did well in the killing. That is when Tyler Robinson's mom started crying and wiping her eyes. Charlie Kirk's mother had her hand on Erica's upper arm and shoulder, and they were both tearful today. After showing the Discord chat logs, the prosecution also put the note from Tyler Robinson on the screen. That's the handwritten note that's been discussed that Tyler Robinson left for his lover. Our reporter inside of the courtroom says it was a very lengthy, full-page handwritten note, Trace.
Yeah, Matt Finn, back to you as the news warrants. Thank you. Meantime, at the courthouse, we've also got Donna Rotuno, criminal defense attorney, host of the Crime and Justice podcast, and a Fox News contributor, along with Josh Ritter, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, and a Fox News contributor as well. Donna, to you first. What I was kind of curious about when they started talking about the flavor inside the courtroom was the fact that
you are saying that these text messages are AI generated. Listen, I am invested in this trial, but I don't know what to believe yet. I'm not 100% sold on the case. All right.
Tyler Robinson was squirming when there was talk about engraving of the bullets. I mean, after all the testimony we heard.
I do believe that he is guilty, but he's still entitled to a fair trial.
After the tape, after the apparent confession through surrogate, as Jonathan Turley was saying, why the engraving of the bullets would make him squirm? What's your theory on that?
I'll tell you why, because they want to make a big deal about other things found at that scene. The unspent bullets, the unfired bullet, the I can't think right now, sorry, the holster that was outside. And they want to make a big deal about these things and what they didn't do. So the reason that those engraved bullets are so important is because they know that the bullet that was fired at Charlie Kirk was engraved. And so that is just one more piece of evidence that ties him
to this. And frankly, the fact that you have Mr. Twiggs talking about the fact that he asked about engraving them, he told them where the item was that he could use, the tool he could use to do that. It was in the pantry. I mean, these are very detailed pieces of information. And you saw Mr. Twiggs. He testified. He's talked to the officers. He seemed very calm. He didn't seem bothered to be there. He didn't seem like he was under duress. He answered their questions. He seemed very forthcoming. So to me, that one piece of evidence really links Tyler Robinson in a way that other pieces of evidence could possibly be refuted. This is not one of them. So to me, that was extremely important today, and maybe one of the most important things. And it was something we have not heard about up until this point.
Yeah, I mean, there was just so much compelling evidence, Josh Witter, when you look at the totality. I mean, you and I 4 nights ago talked about the fact that the threshold seemed to have been reached on Monday. I mean, on Monday, the judge like, yeah, we're going to trial. And now they've just put out so much information and so much evidence that you made the point earlier, like, you know, you maybe walk back in the court saying, we're done. I mean, that's a possibility. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think we reached that threshold day one. I mean, Don Jr. talked about this. Day one, he was convinced, and I think everybody else was. And I do think they reached that threshold of probable cause. Now, today, it has been a flood of new information that makes this case overwhelming, in my view. And all of it is information being supplied by Robinson himself. The text messages, the Discord chat, even the engravings on the bullet, the letter, all of this is from either his own mouth or his own hand. This is incredibly powerful evidence when you start to get to a trial, because jurors may take issue with things like ballistics, and they may take issue with experts disagreeing on DNA. But when you start talking about things that the defendant said, confessions to the crime, there is very little that a defense attorney can do with that type of evidence.
Yeah, I want to bring back in Professor Turley very quickly on this, because the charging documents also have this detailed note that Tyler Robinson left for the roommate. This is filed on September 16th, and it reads, quoting here, on September 10, 2025, the roommate received a text message from Robinson which said, quoting here, drop what you are doing, look under my keyboard. The roommate looked under the keyboard and found a note that stated, I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it. Police found a photograph of this note. I mean, again, it just mounts, Professor. It just mounts. I mean, all of this evidence. And I'm just wondering here that if is this stuff all, is the defense have any chance to knock any of this stuff out?
I think it's going to be very hard to knock much of this out, but keep in mind, you could take out 98% of this stuff and still have a slam dunk conviction. I mean, that's how bad all of this is. I mean, there's a truly otherworldly aspect to these communications. This man just engaged in a political assassination, but he's worried about what daddy might do if he doesn't return the gun. I mean, it's such an awful insight into the type of mind that would commit this type of crime. He just murdered a human being, and yet he's sort of joking about how, you know, grandpa's gun still has that caliber weight to it, and how impressed he is with it. That type of thing is not going to go well with the jury. And part of the problem with this evidence for the defense, by the way, is that at this stage, when you've got overwhelming evidence against your client, you're looking for a pitch to make to take off the table the death penalty or some other aspect of the case. But you have to put something on the table of value to the prosecutors besides, I can save you the time of a trial. The problem here is that the prosecutors have nothing that they need from the defense. Their client has already handed them a slam dunk case for conviction. So why would they agree to a plea? So, you know, the question here is whether he's going to decide, yeah, I don't want to go through a trial here because there's no point to it. Maybe the judge will cut me some slack on the other end. But I don't see it's not just the lack of a defense. I don't even see a good angle to try to engage in meaningful plea discussions for a reduction.
Yeah. My next question was going to be, is this the time they start talking about trying to get rid of the death penalty and getting something lesser? But I think you answered that, Professor. Thank you. Josh Ritter, thank you. Donna Rotuno, thank you as well. We will keep watching this. The court should be back in session in about 15 minutes and 30 seconds. Of course, we'll bring that to you live. Meantime, Jason Chaffetz, who was at the Utah event where Charlie Kirk was murdered on the shooting testimony, we just heard from Tyler Robinson's alleged lover and roommate saying that Robinson wished that he had not done it. Coming right back.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kaylee McEnany, along with Lisa Booth, Harold Ford Jr., Brian Kilmeade, and Jimmy Fela. Who let him in? It's 5 o'clock in New York City, and this is The Five. We begin with this Fox News alert, a critical and emotional day 4 of the Charlie Kirk preliminary murder hearing. The court hearing for the first time a recorded interview from Tyler Robinson's former roommate and former lover, Lance Twiggs. Here's some sound from that, where Lance Twiggs claimed that Tyler Robinson told him he wished he had not done it.
So he acted erratically. Was he pacing? Was he just sitting down, relaxing?
No, he was walking around a lot.
Right, and that's within the home.
Mm-hmm.
And did he talk about what he had done?
Didn't go into detail. I just asked him in person if what he said was true the night before, and he said it was. I started crying a little bit and said he wishes he hadn't done it.
Let's go right to Claudia Cowan in Provo, Utah. Claudia.
Well, good afternoon, Kaylee. Here on day 4 of Tyler Robinson's preliminary hearing, we finally got to this highly anticipated police interview with Lance Twiggs, Tyler Robinson's former lover and roommate, and the prosecution's star witness in their case against the accused assassin. Judge Tony Graff ordered that much of the 37-minute-long interview be played with significant redactions to ensure Robinson receives a fair trial. But by any measure, what was played here today was incriminating. In the video interview, Twiggs tells prosecutor Ryan McBride about his relationship with Robinson and messages he received from him the night and day after Charlie Kirk was killed. He said on September 10th, Robinson left early saying he had a long drive to work, and heard from him again at 11 that night when he got a text message directing him to a note he had left. That's when the courtroom monitor goes to black, but the audio continues. Listen.
That was the note under his keyboard that he was referring to in the first text of that chain.
Okay, so where did you find this?
On his desk underneath his computer keyboard.
Prosecutors say that note and text exchanges include confessions and a motive, including a text where Robinson, when Twiggs asked, "Why did he do it?" replies, "I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out." Twiggs also positively identified Robinson as the man seen in surveillance video at the crime scene, saying he recognized his clothes and his sunglasses. Twiggs also testified Robinson was trying to get hold of a rifle and was interested in engraving bullets for an upcoming hunting trip. The court saw pictures of bullets found inside the suspected murder weapon, with messages like, "Hey, fascist," and "If you can read this, you are gay." Now, this testimony about rifles and hunting brought Erica Kirk to tears. She has been fighting throughout this whole week to get access to as much evidence as possible to combat wild conspiracy theories and to protect her own First Amendment rights. Kaylee, we may not have seen everything that the prosecution have, but what we did see in court today would appear to go a long way to helping the prosecution prove that there is probable cause to hold Tyler Robinson responsible for her husband's murder.
Yeah, without question. Claudia, thank you. Let's bring in Fox News contributor and former LA Deputy DA Josh Ritter. Josh, I want to play a soundbite, and then I have a question for you. But this is the moment Lance Twiggs talks about those engravings. You just heard Claudia say that some of this testimony drove Erica Kirk to tears. Listen to this.
Was he engraving bullets before this?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly when, but he had said he was planning to go hunting with his family. And he asked me for if we had a Dremel because he said he wanted to engrave messages on bullets. And I just told him where our Dremel was and told him to make sure he doesn't set off a bullet on accident in the house. But I didn't really think about it until then.
So are we talking like a year before?
Oh, no, not that long. It would have been, I'd say at most a month before this was when he was asking.
So Josh, I've read testimony that, or some color from the courtroom, that Robinson's becoming visibly agitated during some of this and talking about the engravings. Do you think he's realizing that it's not just a mountain of evidence and it's an avalanche? Could this drive him to a plea deal?
Yeah, I think he's seeing the walls closing in. There was an avalanche of evidence today. We had heard a lot of evidence before today, but today was really the lion's share of it, and some of the strongest evidence, too. We're talking about evidence coming from his former partner, his roommate, a person that he had a romantic relationship with, who's essentially giving the most powerful evidence in this prelim yet, talking about the confessions that he made out of his own mouth to this crime, along with the text messages and the messaging online and the letter that he left behind. All of this is incredibly convincing evidence. And yeah, he's probably starting to think to himself that whatever his attorneys had been convincing him of before now might not be all that true. And this is a very convincing case for the prosecution.
What I'm wondering is if I submitted this script for Law and Order, they'd hand it back to me and said, there's no mystery here. There's no intrigue. This is the craziest case ever. You have the gun, you have the admission, the handwritten note, you have the corroboration, you have it in writing, you got the text exchanges, you have him worrying about his fingerprints, you have his change of clothes, you have the video of him on campus, you have the interaction, you have him get the confirmation of the identification that that's him from his boyfriend, trans lover. So you have all this together. The question is, if you're the defense, do you see any holes to pursue right now? Or do you say, make your decision, Judge, I will see you on trial?
I don't think they have any holes to poke in this case right now with this lower standard that we're talking about at the preliminary hearing of just probable cause. And as far as how they handle this case going forward, to me, there's two strategies. They go hat in hand to the prosecutor's office and they beg for something less than the death penalty. Or it's this war of attrition that we've seen. We are past the 300-day mark right now, and we're just getting to the preliminary hearing. So they've already tried to employ that to just try to wear the prosecution down. And perhaps we'll see more of that. But if this goes to trial, I agree with you. The evidence runs the entire gamut from forensics to DNA to surveillance to his own confessions. It's a very, very powerful case. I don't see any obvious holes unless there is something that catastrophically falls apart for the prosecution. I don't see the prosecution offering him anything less than the death penalty. It'll be remarkable if we see any kind of plea agreement before this reaches trial.
You know, Josh, Lisa Booth here. Thanks for doing such a great job breaking this down for us. Obviously, you look at the publicness of this trial and the information that has surfaced. What role does this preliminary hearing play with the eventual jury pool?
So that's been a big question and something that the defense has tried to focus on, and why they're making much of their arguments as to why some of this evidence should not be shown in court. They keep talking about how we cannot prejudice our client, meaning we cannot somehow spoil the potential jury pool that they will already have made up their minds before they even get called into court as potential jurors. But this is not the first case that we've had in front of a camera. I mean, we've been doing this for decades now, and we know how to handle this as a judicial system. We have very robust voir dire and jury questionnaires. I think they're going to be able to find a fair jury. What this is doing more than anything is probably putting to rest a lot of these bizarre and circulating conspiracy theories so that people can actually see the evidence against him.
Josh, that was going to be my question. We've got so many moonbats on social media trying to exploit the notoriety of this trial. Today was, by all accounts, a really bad day to be a social media agitator, would you not say?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. It did seem as though the prosecution was going down a checklist of every kind of conspiracy theory that was circulating online and almost answering it in turn. I mean, we got down to the idea that he was familiar with that weapon before. how that weapon could have certainly fired from that distance, all the things that seem to have been a question online. We're connecting him through DNA. We're connecting him through surveillance. I mean, one of the things that shouldn't get overlooked with the testimony that we heard from Lance Twiggs today is he identified Tyler Robinson from steals of that surveillance video. That's the first time that we've heard that. Before now, it's always been a person matching his description. And he said in court through this recording that does look like Tyler Robinson.
Josh, this is supposed to end tomorrow. We are supposed to finally, after 300 days, get a plea from Tyler Robinson. Does that happen? Does this end tomorrow?
If the prosecution is wrapping things up today, I think we've got a chance. When you're counting witnesses, it looks like we're getting down to the last couple. But bear in mind, too, there's argument at the end of all of this. And if we've learned anything from these attorneys, they like to take a lot of time to voice their arguments in court. The judge has said he fully intends to have this done. If you're asking me, I'm not going to say I'm going to be shocked if it bleeds on beyond this Friday.
All right, we'll get cozy in Utah there, Josh Ritter. Thank you.
Guys, can we just remind me and remind the audience, what is the point of this preliminary hearing? Why are we seeing so much evidence before we get to trial?
Go ahead, Josh. Well, it's a great question because if you ask, the answer is simply to set a standard of beyond a probable cause, right? That's a lower standard. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt, but just probable cause. So you would think that they had met that early on, day one, perhaps, that they had met that. Now, the prosecution's allowed to handle the case as they would like, but I think this is probably going beyond what they would need to show. But I think it's important for all of us to see, too, because we are seeing a lot of premeditation in this case, especially when it comes to the transcribing on those bullets. Remember, too, this is a death penalty case. So at some point, if things go the way the prosecution intends, this will be sitting in front of a jury, and they're going to be asking them not just to convict this man of murder, but to then put him to death. And these types of things, writing on bullets, thinking about this, obsessing about this, are going to go a long way towards convincing jurors that this is, in fact, the type of person that deserves the greatest punishment that we have in this country.
But first, breaking tonight, an interview with the former partner of the man accused of assassinating conservative commentator Charlie Kirk was played during today's preliminary hearing. Senior correspondent Claudia Cowan is in Provo, Utah again tonight. She's got the details for us. Good evening, Claudia.
Good evening, John. The prosecution has now rested its case, and now it's the defense's turn, with witnesses from the ATF taking the stand. After more delays this morning due to objections by the defense and Erica Kirk's attorney, that much anticipated interview with Tyler Robinson's former roommate and romantic partner finally played in court. Lance Twiggs was given immunity for doing this recorded interview with the prosecution back in April. Twiggs says Robinson left early on the morning of September 10th, the day Charlie Kirk was killed, and claims not to have heard from him until 11 that night. Text messages were shown and read in court, where prosecutors say Robinson admitted to Twiggs that he was the one who assassinated the conservative commentator and had left a confession note under his keyboard. Twiggs finally saw Robinson in person the next day.
Did he talk about what he had done?
Didn't go into detail. I just asked him in person if what he said was true the night before, and he said it was. I started crying a little bit and said he wishes he hadn't done it.
Twiggs was asked about security camera images of Robinson and says it appeared to be him. He recognized his shoes and sunglasses. Twiggs says while Robinson talked about politics, he did not specifically mention Kirk before the day of the shooting.
How about political issues? So did you ever talk about gender identity issues and LGBTQ rights?
No, not really. Usually if he did talk about politics stuff, it was relating to Trump or current policies being issued or voted on.
Twiggs also testified that before the shooting, Robinson was trying to get a hold of a rifle and was interested in engraving bullets for an upcoming hunting trip. Engraved bullets found in the suspected murder weapon were shown in court. That evidence brought Erica Kirk to tears. Only a portion of the 37-minute interview was shown in court today, but the judge says he will consider the entire Twiggs recording when he determines whether there is enough probable cause to move this case to trial. This preliminary hearing, John, is expected to wrap up tomorrow.
All right, we'll look forward to more of that. Claudia Cowan for us with the update. Claudia, thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern.
Provo, Utah. We've been listening to a lot of the evidence being presented there in the courtroom. It started off with the prosecution win that we got to not only hear but see the interview with Tyler Robinson's roommate and alleged lover. And then we saw the text messages. John, I think we all agree they are incredibly revealing about Tyler Robinson's intentions and what he clearly states in many of those alleged messages that he did.
You know, just to go back to where you started there, it was quite a surprise when Lance Twiggs popped up on the video, because we had been led to believe that we were going to hear audio and not see the video, that the court was going to see the video, and then boom, there he was. And I thought it was a mistake that the defense was to
do the timeline. We saw the digital imagery yesterday and the day before, break into an encrypted phone.
I do want to go through these messages, but not the stream. Not the stream. There's going to be so much evidence in this case. I am so invested, but let me go here. I hate when I come out so small. What the hell?
Preliminary hearing for Charlie Kirk's accused assassin, Tyler Robinson, is underway, bringing him face to face with Charlie's parents and his widow, Erica, for the first time.
Chanley Painter was inside the courtroom in Utah yesterday, and this morning she's outside the courthouse ahead of today's hearing. Chanley, what do you have for us?
Hey, good morning, Todd and Ashley. That's right. There was a strong showing of support for the Kirk family at this courthouse yesterday. As I was actually waiting in line to enter the courtroom, I saw Erica Kirk. She walked past. She was holding hands with Charlie Kirk's mother. His father was close behind them as they entered the same room for the first time with Charlie's accused killer. The group of family and supporters, including Donald Trump Jr., took up the first two rows of the gallery. Also in court, the parents of Tyler Robinson, who sat in the row directly behind me with some relatives. And as court began, Erica appeared very emotional, at times wiping tears with a handkerchief, at one point laying her head on Charlie's mother's shoulder. The first witness, Chris Bagley, was on duty at Utah Valley University that day. And as he began to describe hearing the gunshot and seeing Charlie fall, Erica Kirk immediately stood up and several others followed her out of the courtroom. Bagley then went on to testify about racing to that gravel roof where prosecutors believe Robinson fired that fatal shot.
To me, when I got up there and I could see this disturbance in gravel, to me it looks like a sniper pad, a person that has been laying in a prone position, and you got markings of elbows, knees, and feet to where somebody was in the line of sight of where Charlie's tent was.
The lead investigator, David Hull, also took the stand yesterday where prosecutors showed videos of the shooting that were so graphic only the judge and lawyers were allowed to watch them. Tyler Robinson sat still, showing no visible reaction in those moments. Hull also testified that he identified Robinson 4 times in surveillance videos on campus before, during, and after the shooting.
Would you please point him out and identify something that he is wearing?
Yeah, I believe that Mr. Robinson is between Miss Nestor and other counsel wearing a gray suit jacket with a dark tie and a light colored shirt.
As I would ask that the record reflect that Agent Holt has identified the defendant.
And Agent Hull is expected to return to the witness stand this morning as day 2 kicks off of this preliminary hearing, guys, which is expected to last this entire week. I'll send it back to you.
And we will be watching. Chanley, thank you. With that, let's bring in retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent James Galliano, also in Utah right now. James, after day one, do prosecutors appear to be on track to meet the very low threshold of evidence they need to get this case from the preliminary hearing stage all the way to trial?
Yeah, good morning, Todd. Yes, there's a really low threshold in a preliminary hearing. This is a prima facie hearing, which just requires that the prosecution put out enough evidence for the judge to be able to bound this over for trial. That is going to happen. And Todd, yesterday, there were no Perry Mason moments. There were no aha moments. It was standard laying out the layout of the campus where Charlie Kirk was assassinated and basically walking through a lot of digital imagery. I think today we're going to move more into some of the evidence related to the weapon that was used and the progress after the assassination itself.
You said there's no aha moments. Is that standard, or is that usually just how this type of situation goes?
Yeah, usually the prosecution wants to hold all the really explosive stuff close to the vest for trial. But then again, a preliminary hearing is considered a mini trial. So it basically progresses in the same way. But people that were looking for that one big thing, that one revealing of this critical piece of evidence did not get that yesterday. A lot of it was spatial alignment of the campus and a lot of working through the digital imagery that the State Bureau of Investigation walked through.
But James, one thing that was not standard from a standard preliminary hearing were all the objections from the defense. Heck, normally the defense could waive the preliminary hearing in and of itself. And so my question really is, do you expect, based upon the delay tactics that the defense is employing here, that the judge at some point is going to come in and say, hey guys, knock it off. We're talking about basic facts here. And to be clear, we are not in trial yet.
Yeah, Todd, great question. The top charge in this case is aggravated murder. And the aggravated part just means that there was a level of severity or heinousness or depravity or cruelty attached to the murder itself. And in this instance, the defense could have waived it. Now, I'm speculating here. I've seen a lot of these, sat through a lot of preliminary hearings with the government side. I can only imagine that since this defense team specializes in capital murder cases, that they want to walk through this process A to B to C to D and not miss a beat here, because this case does have major implications with the death penalty.
And then I want to run this soundbite here. This is former Officer Badgley. It's his testimony from yesterday. He was there when Charlie Kirk was killed. I want you to listen to this. I also want to point out that Erica Kirk left the room during this testimony.
He was answering a question, kid asked him a question, and then I heard a shot fired. Everybody started getting up and starting to run in more of a chaos kind of situation. I proceeded to right where the Fugle and the hall flags meet. There's some outside stairs that I was starting to run down. As I was trying to get down to the bottom of the stairs, people are running up, people are laying down on the steps. I'm trying to jump over people to get to the bottom of the stairs so I can help stop an individual that's probably shooting.
Obviously, hearing that is severely emotional for the family, but your reaction to his testimony and just that little piece.
Yeah, really tough for the family. Obviously, victims of crimes, especially one as heinous as this one that was blasted all over television screens around the country and around the world. Really tough for the Kirk family. And look, the evidence that was laid out there was just establishing all the confusion that took place in the immediate aftermath. They didn't know where the shot came from. And that's, as a former FBI and Army sniper, that's a real thing. Tyler Robinson, the alleged shooter, was about 150 yards away on top of the Losi Center. And when that shot rang out, no one knew where it came from. So the officer was basically just describing the confusion and why people did not know where to look to see where the shooter was.
Yeah, confusion and total panic. Okay, James Galliano, thank you so much for your take on this. We appreciate it.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now.
I'm Mike Lawler. You're close to the area.
As much as I would love to see the video that they're about to play, no, we got to stay on topic so I can get through this. But don't worry, you guys. I might sneak a little bit of Trump in there. I know how you feel. Where is it? I think I lost my video. Here it is. You guys love it when I play Donald Trump. But not right now. Here you go.
Is to use your statement here instead of your testimony at a preliminary hearing. Understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so in order to do that, I need to place you under oath and also give you an admonition about false statements. Okay. First, you do solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you shall give in this issue shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help you God.
Yes.
I also need to notify you that you are notified that statements you are about to make may be presented to a magistrate or a judge in lieu of your sworn testimony at a preliminary examination. Any false statement you make and that you do not believe to be true may subject you to criminal punishment as a Class A misdemeanor. You understand that?
Yes.
It potentially could be used as for punishment as a higher offense as obstruction of justice. In addition, I just want to make sure that our recording here is clear that you've also been given a federal agreement and a state agreement granting you immunity from prosecution for materials that you discuss now. You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. First, we're going to cover some of the things that you've already talked about, but to make it as part of this record. First, what's your name?
Full name with middle name or just first and last?
First and last is fine.
Okay, my name is Lance Twiggs.
And do you know Tyler Robinson?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do.
And this is the same Tyler Robinson that's been charged with the shooting of Charlie Kirk?
Yes.
And would you say when you first met Tyler?
I think it was 2023. I've known him longer than that, though. That was, I think, the first time I met him in person.
Okay.
And will you describe your relationship with Tyler when you first met him anyway?
When I first met him, I didn't know him super well. He was just a new roommate. So I knew he knew my friend group and I knew he liked playing games, but that's about it when we first, when he first moved in.
Okay. Before we go on, I realized my mic was muted at the outset. Was yours on, your microphone? Okay. I'm going to repeat those admonitions just to make sure we got it recorded. Okay, so again, I placed you under oath. Just to make a record, I'm going to do it again. You do solemnly swear that the evidence you shall give in this issue shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
And again, I'm going to give you the false statement admonition.
Sorry, hold on. And if they're saying that it's echoing, so
I think this one's mic is on.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, you're not on my mic.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so we should be good. All right. Is that mic off?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
All right. Okay, sorry about that interruption. All right. So you said when you first met you were roommates?
Yeah.
Okay. And then at some point, your relationship progressed to something more than just roommates. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
When was that?
I think we started dating 2 or 3 months after he moved in.
Okay. And where did you live at that time?
St. George, in an apartment complex.
And is that apartment the same place you lived when on September 10th?
Yes.
When you lived there with Tyler, were you in the same room? Did you live in the same room or different rooms?
No, separate rooms.
And at that time, let's say September of 2025, what were you doing with your life? Were you working, school?
I was working. I was doing like bathtub and shower repair and stuff in new construction.
Okay. How about Tyler?
I think he was both working. I think he was working for an electrician company then, and he was also in a trade school for being I don't know, higher ranking electrician. I'm not sure how the trade system works for that.
Okay.
But yeah, I think he was both.
What was his typical work day like?
think he'd leave around 7 generally and get back around 3 to 4, depending on like where the job was and how long it was for the day. And then on certain days of the week during school, like semesters, he would then later in the day, I think around 5 or 6, go to school. So yeah.
Okay, let's jump to September 10th. Did he spend the night in the apartment the night of September 9th into September 10th?
Yeah, he did. Yes.
Do you know when he left the apartment on September 10th?
I don't know an exact time. I just know he left early. I heard him leaving, and he just said he had a long drive to work that day, so he was leaving early.
Okay, so early. Any guess as to what when that was?
I don't know. I would have thought it was 5 a.m. because that's when like an early work day was for him, but it was probably more like 4.
Okay.
I'm gonna have him spat his gum just to make sure that
I can do that.
You mind? Hit it right in front of your laptop.
Oh, here you go.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so what time did you get up on September 10th?
Probably like 12 to 1 p.m.
You didn't have to work that day?
No.
And did you hear from Tyler? Did he call or text you before then?
No, he sent that message in the group chat I mentioned, but he didn't message me directly at all that day.
Okay. When did you first hear from him on September 10th?
It was at 11 o'clock with that like automated message.
Okay, 11 p.m.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly when, but he had said he was planning to go hunting with his family. And he asked me for if we had a Dremel because he said he wanted to engrave messages on bullets. And I just told him where our Dremel was and told him to make sure he doesn't set off a bullet on accident in the house. But I didn't really think about it until then.
How long before September 10th was this that he asked about the Dremel?
I don't remember because he'd been talking about the hunting/camping trip for a couple months, but I don't remember when he was specifically asking to engrave the bullets. So
are we talking like a year before?
Oh no, not that long. It would have been I'd say at most a month before this was when he was asking.
Okay. Okay, the notes have been titled 16.3 with a note, and this is base number 58. Do you recognize that on the screen there?
Yeah.
What do you recognize it as?
That was the note under his keyboard that he was referring to in the first text of that chain.
Okay, so where did you find this?
On his desk underneath his computer keyboard.
And I assume you read it.
Yeah.
And then what did you do with it after you read it?
I believe I just put it back down on the desk after I took a picture of it.
Okay. And again, the time you read it was probably around 11 o'clock or so on the 10th.
Yes.
The night of September 10th.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And did you ever see that again after you placed it back on his desk?
No, I don't think I did.
And that was a desk in his bedroom?
Yes.
And that's a separate bedroom than your bedroom?
Yeah.
And now I want to go to
what's been titled 16.2. And do you recognize this series of messages here?
Yeah, that was the server, like his friend that I was mentioning.
Okay, and this is your phone again?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you recognize it because the big crack up at the top.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a server. Is this Discord?
Yeah, this is Discord.
And who are members of this server? I don't want names, just generally, who are these people?
This is his friend group. They played D&D together every week.
Okay. And I just want to scroll through this to make sure that you get a chance to take a look at it. Go to the next page.
Mm-hmm. Or yes.
So Tyler, who's that?
That's Tyler Robinson.
These other people are just others that are members of the server.
Yes.
Jug, Barnaby, Marina, DM.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, like DM means Dungeon Master. So this is these are like most of them are names they're using in the game they're playing currently.
Got it. Yeah, it looks like the last text from Tyler looks like it's 8 p.m. And do you know what day this would have been? 8 p.m. on the 10th or the 11th?
I would think that would be the 11th. Because on at least I think so, because I don't think on the 10th that he messaged anyone before me at like 11. So.
And he turned himself in on the 11th, right?
I thought so, yeah.
So again, we're just going to go through this so that we have a record of the messages. Is that an accurate recording of that thread?
To my knowledge, yes.
And that was sent, looks like between September 10th and September 12th. Looks like the last day on this is September 12th. Screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so again, those messages covered from September 10th to the evening of September 11th. Now, September 11th, what time did you see Tyler on September 11th?
Yes.
When did you first see him on September 11th? So this is the day after the shooting?
Yeah, I saw him when I woke up. Like I said, he was up and around doing a lot of stuff around the house. And then I think I saw him after that message where I said I'll come home and say I'm doing laundry, because I didn't want him going to my parents' house right then when he said there was probably cops outside. So I went back home and it was just him there, and I said bye to him, and then he drove off. So I just went back to my parents' house.
And did he talk about what he had done?
Didn't go into detail. I just asked him in person if what he said was true the night before, and he said it was. I started crying a little bit and said he wishes he hadn't done it. And then kept going around and just doing stuff, I think, to keep himself busy or distracted or something.
Okay. Did he talk about what he was going to do next?
And then eventually said that he would talk to his parents or turn himself over.
Okay. And when you left, was that how you left, understanding that he was going to turn himself in or go to his parents' house?
Yeah, and I didn't really want to be at our apartment while any of that was happening, regardless of what went down.
Okay. Okay, before he came home, had you seen the press releases, any of the media on this?
I'd seen one Instagram link a friend of mine had sent in our group chat,
okay,
but I hadn't really looked into it at all.
And had you seen the images that were released of the suspect?
I did the next day. I don't think I saw any on the 10th.
I'm going to show you a couple of those images. Okay, I'm on the FBI's website. You can see the URL there at the top. This is some press release about this event. And here on the screen, you see these, looks like there's 2 rows of 3 images.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recognize the person in these images?
I wouldn't say with 100% certainty just because of camera quality, but that looks like him in terms of the shoes he's wearing, the sunglasses. I don't think I'd specifically seen him wearing that hat, but he was usually wearing a hat, and then jeans. So it definitely, especially the bottom, the last 2, definitely do look like him. Oh, they do look like Tyler Robinson.
And you talked about that with your friends, right? This looks like him.
Yeah, his friends. Yeah, I don't know if I don't remember if I talked about it with any of my friends. And then since I didn't have my phone after that for a while, and I still am not using social media, I don't know on my friends' end.
Okay. All right, I want to back up a little bit now. We've talked about September 10th, but let me get a little bit of context here. So did you game with Tyler?
Yeah.
What kind of games?
Played some just kind of party games together, like anything that would be multiplayer with a group of friends. There was one game he really liked called Sea of Thieves, where you play as like a pirate, and you can fight against people, but most of it's just like fishing, fighting sharks, skeletons kind of stuff. We played some co-op games where it's like you both have to work together to win in whatever way. Way back when I was just out of high school, when I first knew him online, we played some like shooting games together, but I didn't know him very well, so that was just when we had like a whole friend group on to play, and he was someone that my friends invited.
Okay. Did you and he ever talk about politics?
He did more than me. I didn't really, still don't really keep up with politics very much. He'd usually talk about stuff he heard on the radio on his drive to work in like their work car, since it sounds like their whole crew went in the same car most of the time. But I wouldn't say super consistently, because it wasn't a topic I really contributed much on.
What about Charlie Kirk? Did you ever talk about Charlie Kirk?
I personally had never heard him talk about Charlie Kirk before specifically.
Okay. How about political issues? So did you ever talk about gender identity issues and LGBTQ rights?
No, not really. Usually if he did talk about politics stuff, it was relating to Trump or current like policies being like issued or voted on, I think. But yeah.
Okay, so before that you had been?
For a short time, yes.
Okay. And I understand you're going by Luna at some point?
To some people, yeah, but not as an overall thing.
Dang, some of this is, oh no, I got you, damage. I know what you meant. Some of this, don't pay attention to Doc.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have for this portion. Let me check and see if I've missed anything.
Thank you, Space Daddy. What did you guys think of that? It kind of sucks he got immunity.
Okay. The Dremel that you talked about, you said he had asked for that, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And had he told you it was to inscribe bullets?
Yeah.
And so did you have a Dremel then?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was in our, our apartment, we had a section where we kept all our, random tools for household stuff in our, lower basement level pantry. So, yeah.
Okay. And did you give that to him or tell him where it was?
I just told him where it was, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording for the 1102 purposes.
I would like to, I don't know, you guys, I would like to see him stand proud.
Breaking news tonight, the U.S. launching a new...
Oh man, that is so tempting to play about the U.S. Oh, so tempting. I'm almost done here. But I would like to see him stand trial. There's so many things that we just don't know. Oh, here we go. We got about 10 more minutes of this one. Together.
The preliminary hearing of Tyler Robinson, the man accused of killing Charlie Kirk, resumes later this morning after an emotional and also contentious day in court. The judge ordered redactions to video testimony from Robinson's former roommate and lover, Lance Twiggs, despite the Kirk family pushing for the full statement to be made public. Now, prosecutors say that testimony includes text messages, chat logs, and a note tied to the case as Robinson appeared visibly uneasy when Twiggs was even talked about in court. Joining us now to discuss is former federal prosecutor and former acting director of ICE, Jonathan Fahey. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And let's talk about the timeline that we're seeing. This week, prosecutors laid out what looks to be their central narrative here. Video that tracks Tyler Robinson across Utah Valley University campus. Basically, they say climbing onto the roof, firing that fatal shot, and toward the suspected shooting position, along with this graphic video of the shooting itself. As a former federal prosecutor, when the state leads with this kind of visual sequence at really a preliminary hearing, what is they trying to establish beyond just probable cause here?
Yeah, I think what they're doing here is they're sort of just laying out sort of the clearest narrative to just explain the situation. I think the other thing that they might be doing, which is important, one, there is the public perception out there. I know they're not supposed to be playing to the public, but certainly you want the perception of a very strong case to come out of this because it's a probable cause hearing. However, there are a lot of people are watching. The second part of it that's important, a lot of times prosecutors in a preliminary hearing, they might be putting on their strongest case to convince a defendant that they should plead guilty because you're like, hey, if the case is this strong in preliminary hearing, it's not getting better for you at trial, maybe you want to plea. So those are the types of things that could be going on. I think generally, though, the prosecutors almost seem to be sort of very cautiously don't want to somehow have a misstep, so they're really putting on more than they need to at this stage.
What do you think about the whole thing regarding the suspect's roommate, Lance Twiggs, and his possible partner here was given immunity in exchange for providing recorded statements. Now, DNA, according to reports, was found on a rifle, a towel, and a screwdriver. An FBI analyst says that matched DNA for two people, Twiggs, and also the person likely to be Robinson. But this roommate is not going to testify live. They're going to give a recorded statement. Why that choice? And what
I think
difference
for one, you can have hearsay as allowed in a preliminary hearing in Utah. So that part of it, they could play the statement. The second part, which is really important, is when you have a critical witness in a case, you don't want to get the other side a chance to cross-examine them and maybe see their vulnerabilities. So when he actually testifies, it will be the defense won't have as much of an advantage. And secondly, it might be difficult for him to testify. So they might want to just prepare him for the actual trial and not focus too much on it at this stage.
One thing that's interesting is that you have Erica Kirk and also the Kirk family. They were there for proceedings. Does that play a role? How does this play into how this will unfold? And maybe even the perception for the defense? What will this do?
Yeah, I think one part of it is, it does add the emotional aspect to something that's already an emotional case. But I think going forward at this phase, it's not going to affect whether or not probable cause is determined. But I think the two things, one, you just alluded to, the defendant will see her in court and know she'll be there at trial, which could indirectly impact the jury seeing somebody that was directly impacted in such a profound way. So I think that she's part of this trial, even though she's not really part of the trial.
Why do you call this prelim? I think you said it was unusual. Why?
I think it's unusual in that usually a preliminary hearing, I was a state prosecutor and a federal prosecutor, usually even for significant cases, they're a couple of hours long. But this prosecutor seems to be basically doing the belt and suspenders approach and essentially almost doing a mini trial, which typically isn't done at a preliminary hearing.
Listen, I want to ask you real quickly about ICE reportedly arresting roughly around 10,000 people in just 5 days. This is a surge. It's a lot of people. I think they said double in whatever time frame. What does this tell you about the surge, how large this is going to be, and what can we see moving forward?
I think this is really indicative of what we're going to see going forward in terms of the numbers. Remember, ICE got about 10,000 new agents through the big, beautiful bill. They're probably at this point, a lot of them are ramping up, so they're getting the manpower. Secondarily, you have the borders now secure, so ICE can focus really on internal enforcement, those arrests. So I think these numbers are not an aberration. I think they're more at what we're going to see going forward, maybe not always 10,000 every 5 days, but I think significant numbers going forward.
All right. Former federal prosecutor and former acting director of ICE, Jonathan Fahey, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You guys, I try not to mention certain stuff in the chat for algorithm purposes. Okay. Do you guys like Don Jr.?
Fox News alert, Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin, Tyler Robinson, is back in court. Today, we're finally getting to hear from Robinson's trans lover, Lance Twiggs. According to Twiggs, Robinson never talked about Charlie Kirk.
Did you and he ever talk about politics?
He did more than me. I don't really keep up with politics very much. He'd usually talk about stuff he heard on the radio.
What about Charlie Kirk? Did he ever talk about Charlie Kirk?
I personally had never heard him talk about Charlie Kirk before specifically.
Twiggs claims Robinson was a political hermit with a mild case of TDS.
How about political issues? So did you ever talk about gender identity issues and LGBTQ rights?
No, not really. Usually if he did talk about politics stuff, it was relating to Trump or current policies being issued or voted on.
So the gay guy in a trans relationship never talked about LGBT stuff or Charlie Kirk. That's weird. Just like your boyfriend engraving bullets.
Was he engraving bullets before this?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly when, but he had said he was planning to go hunting with his family. And he asked me for if we had a Dremel because he said he wanted to engrave messages on bullets. And I just told him where our Dremel was and told him to make sure he doesn't set off a bullet on accident in the house. But I didn't really think about it until then.
And now, unsealed texts between Twiggs and Robinson reveal the very moment Robinson allegedly admitted that he murdered Kirk. Quote, "You weren't the one who did it, right?" "I am. I'm sorry." "I thought they caught the person." "No, they grabbed some crazy old dude." "Why?" "Why did I do it? Yeah. I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I am able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence." End quote. The next day, Twiggs confronted Robinson about the texts.
Did he talk about what he had done?
Didn't go into detail. I just asked him in person if what he said was true the night before, and he said it was. He started crying a little bit and said he wishes he hadn't done it.
Prosecutors are revealing more evidence that links Robinson to Charlie Kirk's assassination. Investigators say they found the murder weapon wrapped in a towel in nearby woods, as well as a screwdriver on the roof of the building where Robinson allegedly took the shot. FBI analyst Amanda Baker says the DNA found on the towel and the tool came from two sources, Robinson and Twiggs. This all comes as new video was released showing Robinson limping on campus the day of the shooting. It's believed that Robinson's limp was because of the gun or possible gun parts hiding in his pants. This new video appears to debunk wild internet conspiracy theory that Robinson was never on the campus the day of the shooting. Now prosecutors have 1 day left to provide more evidence to convince the court that Tyler Robinson should be tried for Charlie Kirk's assassination. If the judge finds probable cause, the case moves toward a full criminal trial, which could end with the death penalty. Executive Vice President of the Trump Organization, Donald Trump Jr. joins us now. Thank you for joining us, Don. You were a longtime true friend of Charlie Kirk. In the 10 months since his assassination, the internet has been flooded with people, many of whom claiming to be his friend, who have stirred up these conspiracy theories, everything from Tyler Robinson was never on campus to Tyler Robinson never turned himself in, to suddenly becoming like ballistics experts about the Springfield 30-06 round. You were in the hearing this week. Tell us what you learned about what happened on September 10th, 2025 at Utah State University.
Well, listen, Charlie, having been in the room now, and I've been pretty quiet for most of this time. I did a lot of press right after Charlie was killed. Because Erica, the family, Turning Point asked me to do that. Everyone else started jumping on the bandwagon. I wasn't going to do any of it, but they wanted people who were actually his friends, not just people looking for the sort of clicks to do that. So, and then I went pretty quiet because honestly, there was so much noise out there. You didn't really realize what was or what wasn't. I mean, there were so many things that were, as far as people were concerned, were the gospel that, strangely enough, haven't even been brought up in the case, probably because they weren't. And so I stayed silent because I want actual justice for Charlie. The way to honor his legacy is to actually find who did this. And honestly, based on everything that I saw in that courtroom, it's very clear to me that Tyler Robinson did this. I mean, you have a kid that, drove 4.5 hours away from where he lived to visit a university campus that he did not go to. He visited the campus 4 times. You can see that very clearly on the video. One of those times, at 12:30 at night, you see him change clothes from, wearing shorts and a t-shirt to wearing long pants and baggy things, going up to a rooftop where they showed us literal pictures of indentations where, someone would be lying down prone to shoot a rifle. You have a screwdriver that likely could have been used to take apart the gun because it had the DNA of the shooter and, and his boyfriend on it, but mostly Tyler Robinson. And so it's pretty clear to me that A, he was there, he was scoping it out. He then went back, put on clothes that could perhaps hide a rifle or a taken down rifle. If you took the stock, and the, barreled action apart, you could conceal that in your pants much more easily. He's walking with this strange limp. And then the second the shot's fired, they see him, jumping off the roof. The limp is gone and he's holding a long, dark object, like a rifle wrapped up in something. Between that, the DNA evidence, details, like he turned him, eliminated
My internet's
any kind of
fallen.
evidence to go in there. I mean, it's almost like, well, that would be really prejudicial. It's like, yeah, because you have him on video doing exactly what everyone believes him to have done. Yeah, that's prejudicial because it's very clear to me that he is guilty. And so, I wanted to be quiet for a long time, and I was, because I wanted to see what actually happened. And I don't think anyone, can't say that I don't have my conspiracy theory bona fides out there. I've seen plenty of them. I've been a victim of many of them. I've seen that, but because of this, because of the gravity, I wanted to see what actually was there, what the actual evidence. And to me, this stuff is very cut and dry at this point.
So, are there any big questions that you went into into this preliminary hearing with that prosecutors were not able to answer?
Well, listen, I think the prosecutors did a great job doing that. I mean, frankly, the biggest question in my mind at this point, Charlie, is not whether Tyler Robinson did this or if it was, some, people from a foreign land or another planet. It was, why were there only 6 police officers active at a major event on a university campus? I mean, that to me seems like something that should have been done. Apparently, from the officer that was testifying seemed quite competent as an officer, very competent as a witness. But the fact that there were only 6 people there, that there was no briefing prior to an event. I mean, these are big events. I've done 100 of them with Charlie Kirk on college campuses all over the place. These are big events that draw thousands of people. That there wasn't an all hands on deck kind of operation to prevent this very thing from happening. Is truly scary. You then get into the details of, this guy and his views, on transgenderism and what that meant relative to Charlie's views. And you start saying, I mean, it's about as clear cut as it can get to me.
I almost hate to ask the question, but I think it's really important because I don't want to give any attention to these people who all they want is attention. Why do you think so many of these people are spinning these baseless theories online about Charlie Kirk's murder?
Listen, I think there's different things. I mean, there's people that, frankly, and perhaps in some cases, rightfully so, feel like they've been misled for a long time about a lot of things. That turns out they were right. I mean, I was canceled for saying, hey guys, like the Wuhan lab leak probably came from the lab that studied the exact virus in question at the ground zero of where the virus broke out. No, Don. You're not a virologist. How dare you opine on something like this? Like, you don't have to be a virologist. You just have to be not an imbecile. So, you have those, and then you have other people that, I imagine are doing it for clicks and, they've either tried to monetize this or otherwise. So, I'm not going to give credence either way. I know many people, frankly, on both sides of that. It's, the movement, I think it's really coming together now that before 6 months ago, it would have been probably 50-50. Now it's probably a 90-10 issue where people are saying, okay, this is very clearly what happened. But I understand a lot of people why they'd be skeptical about anything that they've been told as of late. But for me, as someone who is a big skeptic on a lot of things, who's called it out for a long period of time, I was there. I don't believe that literally every officer is in on this. I don't believe that my lying eyes were telling me the video was different. I don't believe someone would turn themselves in and their parents would bring them there if they weren't a part of it. And you back that up with the other evidence of that person's both religious and political views, his views on transgenderism and the violence that we've seen from so many people affiliated with that community over the last few years. It became very cut and dry to me. And again, the stuff I saw, the videos I saw, the evidence I saw, that's not stuff that's been in the public domain. And I think that was difficult for a lot of people. There's so much noise, it's hard to tell what is fact, what is fiction. In court, we saw the fact facts laid out very eloquently. It took a long period of time to get it out there, but once you see it, you put the picture together. Let's just say this is, to me, again, way beyond a reasonable doubt.
Well, it's because you are a skeptic that you have a lot of credibility on this, and we appreciate you taking an honest look at it, and we appreciate you coming on and explaining it to us. Thank you, Don.
My pleasure, Charlie. Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now.
So hard not to dive into Donald Trump. Hang on, let me give you guys one more. You don't trust Don? You don't trust Don Jr. What did he do to you? He could be president someday. Could be. So, I don't know.
Bring back Fox News contributors Donna Rotuno and Josh. Josh, I want to play this out. This is more from SOT2 guys. This is Twiggs. When he details meeting Tyler Robinson.
Okay.
Listen here.
When I first met him, I didn't know him super well. He was just a new roommate. So I knew he knew my friend group, and I knew he liked playing games, but that's about it.
At some point, your relationship progressed to something more than just roommates, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
When was that?
I think we started dating 2 or 3 months after he moved in.
So, Josh, while there was a lot of lead up to this and we weren't really sure what this relationship was, how it was defined, how and when it came together, clearly we heard in that interview they moved in together and 2 or 3 months later they began dating. So confirming in that interview that this was a romantic relationship.
Yeah, and think about how powerful that's going to be for the jury, too. That this is not a person who just knew him casually. This was a person who was intimately involved with Tyler Robinson, and this person is willing to testify about everything that Tyler Robinson told him. I mean, we have a lot of evidence. I think all of us have made that clear today, that we all believe that there's plenty of evidence, certainly for this hearing and even at trial. You're talking about the DNA, the surveillance video, the ballistics, everything else. But the evidence of words out of the defendant's own mouth, whether that comes through another witness or in the form of text messages, those, in my view, are the most powerful to jurors, because they may be able to understand how DNA might be placed somewhere or ballistics might be twisted around. But when somebody is admitting to something, there's really no lawyering you can do to get around that. And this, what we've heard today, is, in my view, the cornerstone of the entire prosecution case.
Yeah, Donna, let me put to you the question I put to Paul Morrow in that vein. The fact that in the interview, Lance Twiggs says, I met with Tyler the next day and asked him if what he told me the night before about, yes, he did it, he killed Charlie Kirk, was true, and he said yes. I mean, full stop. That's one-on-one in-person witness. That's not hearsay evidence. That's not a text message. That's not, I was told over the phone. That is in person. He said, yes, he did it.
Yeah, it's very compelling. I mean, it's like the slam dunk of the case, right? He's almost giving him an opportunity to take the statement back. And remember, in those text messages where he first makes this admission in this statement, he says, I meant to delete that, or I tried to delete that. So in the moment of sending it, he's realizing the damaging nature of what he just did. And it's almost as if Lance Twiggs didn't want to believe it. And the next morning, it's like he had to look at him and hear it from his own mouth to make sure what he was reading and what he saw on that note under the keyboard was actually true. Josh, they'll be back. It looks like at 3:30 Eastern time. That's about 36 minutes from now. A lot of focus has been on this judge, this newish judge, throughout all of this. Your thoughts on that?
Well, given how slowly everything has progressed and given how much the judge allows everyone to have plenty of time to voice their arguments, if I'm the prosecution, I'm having serious thoughts about coming out of this lunch break and saying, Your Honor, we're done. Yes. We rest. We feel that we've reached our burden. If the defense has some witnesses they want to put on, use the remaining time of today and all of tomorrow to try to get this thing done this week. If you have any chance of doing that, because I guarantee you this, by the way, what we're not calculating into the matrix here as far as how much time this will all take, there's still argument at the end of this. The judge is still going to allow them to make their case on whether or not that burden of probable cause, as low as it is, has been met. And these attorneys like to talk, so that could take some time.
Well, and you still have cross-examination of this witness. So the state's attorney can say, I'm done with my evidence, but who knows how long the cross-examination is going to take of Officer Davis, who's on the stand. Okay.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you so
folks.
much.
Appreciate it. You'll be on in the story coming right up as we get back to court. Let's bring in Carrier Bond, Fox News legal editor, for some final thoughts here. We're just getting some color here from the court. When they got to the part about the rifle, discussing that he wanted to go back and get the rifle. Tyler was swinging in his chair, scratching his nose, looked uncomfortable with the text messages on the screen. Erica Kirk was looking down, leaning forward, not looking at the screen, showing the text. When they got to the part about Lance asking Tyler in the text, does he need the rifle for hunting, that kind of stuff, that's when Erica audibly began crying. Tyler's mom was also crying at that point, not audibly. She was wiping her eyes. Charlie's mom had her hand on Erica's upper arm, shoulder. They're both tearful. Just getting some of the action inside the courtroom there as all of this unfolds. And you can imagine for Erica Kirk to hear all of this, just has to be devastating again, because it's just like right back in her face again.
That's right. I mean, she's reliving the most traumatic experience that someone could potentially go through, and against the backdrop of people who are attempting to profit off of this situation by spreading lies and outrageous theories. In the aggregate, it doesn't really get much worse than what she's going through. And so I can't imagine how difficult it must be to sit there and listen to all of this. But Josh made a good point at the end of them speaking with you, which was that maybe the prosecution comes back and say, hey, look, we've given you enough. We rest, our case, so to speak, and what we're doing here. And I thought the defense attorney actually right before they stopped for lunch did say that they weren't going to cross-examine the agent. So that's off the table now. So, Paul Morrow made the point that there is stuff we likely haven't even seen yet that presumably they would be keeping for trial. So I don't really see the point in going, but really for anyone at this point. The judge has what he needs. The prosecution has proffered more than enough evidence at this point. I don't see how any of this helps the defense at this point. It's just hurting them significantly. So I think everyone needs to close up shop and be done. But, given the way the judge has approached this case, it's probably unlikely.
Paul, I want to bring you back in here on this, more color from the courtroom. Erica and Kathy, Charlie Kirk's mother, and Erica, his now widow, they were both tearing up, we were told, as Agent Davis was testifying about the letter. And the letter references the keyboard letter, the letter that Tyler Robinson left under the keyboard for his roommate to find. It was shown in court. It was a handwritten note. It was lengthy, we are told, a lengthy handwritten note, a full page. Just more incredible evidence. I mean, a full page handwritten note that clearly detailed his intentions to kill Charlie Kirk.
That's right. And as Josh Ritter made the point, that's been authenticated now by Twiggs. And Twiggs, in fact, took a photo of that note and didn't dispose of it, as Robinson asked him to do. And then, of course, you get this story that we heard, which is the next morning, Robinson starts to realize the fantasy balloon has popped and he understands what he got himself into. I just got to go back to it. The evidence is incontrovertible. But you know what? At some point, and it doesn't matter legally, but this is very cruel in a way to the family, to Charlie Kirk's family. Wrap this thing up and let's go.
I pray for that.
Yeah.
Wow.
No real reason to keep it going. Paul, thank you to you. Carrie, thank you to you. Josh and Donna and James Galliano as well. Really appreciate your help in the coverage.
Be sure to like and subscribe for.
Yeah, you guys, that's pretty heavy. That's pretty heavy. I hate to leave you guys on a heavy note. Let me lighten the mood. I know exactly what will make you feel better. Okay, let me lighten the mood before we get out of here. I'm praying for the Kirk family, and may justice be served. I got you guys. I can't leave you feeling down. Let's see. How about this one? You're welcome, icebergs. You're so welcome. I love you guys. I do. Let me cheer you up.
Welcome back into Live Now from Fox. I am Andy Mack. It is official. President Donald J. Trump International Airport is open for business. Up until Thursday, the South Florida facility was called Palm Beach International Airport for over half a century. Then a month-old state law took effect, and you can see this on social media talking about this. Palm Beach Airport now named for President Trump, effective today. Palm Beach International officially renamed President Donald J. Trump International Airport. The airport website will continue to be at that link. They have this here on social media as the president flies in and out of that airport relatively often, and it's mere miles from his oceanfront estate, Mar-a-Lago, as the lifelong New Yorker declaring Palm Beach as his permanent residence in 2019. And this is some of the images of that signage outside. As you can see, the President Donald J. Airport is Eric Trump, the executive vice president of the Trump Organization, said the president's plane was the first to land at the newly renamed airport at 5:01 a.m. on Thursday. Eric Trump also had this statement online.
Minutes ago, 5:01 a.m., the name of the airport changed from Palm Beach International to President Donald J. Trump International Airport. And there's no way in hell I was letting UPS be the first plane to land. So we got on Trump Force One, and Lawrence, you've been on it, and Brian, you've certainly been on it, and Emily, you've probably been on it as well. But we had to be the last plane to take off out of PBI. And then air traffic control comes on, and, welcome to Trump Force One. You're the first plane to ever land, at this airport. And so we touched down at exactly 5:01 a.m. this morning, and it was a beautiful day. I don't think there's anybody more synonymous with Palm Beach than Donald Trump, and maybe all of Florida. And, it's
See you, Stephanie. Thank you for hanging out.
Home. He absolutely loves the state, won the state by a major margin, and this is a plane that carried him to victory. A lot of people will argue 3 times, but certainly 2. It was the backdrop of so many of the presidential campaign stops. There's so many stops with us as a family. So it was an incredibly special moment for us this morning. Guys, he actually woke me up. It was really nice. At about midnight last night, he was coming back from Turkey. My phone rings. Now, we had to be out here at 3:30 a.m., right? So I was going to get about 2 hours of sleep. And the two of us ended up speaking for about an hour on the way back from Turkey. He's super excited about this. Again, a place he knows so well. At Palm Beach International, it's actually now obviously President Donald J. Trump International Airport, but it's one of the fastest growing airports in the country. And, Palm Beach is obviously incredibly explosive. I mean, it's one of the fastest growing areas in the country. And, he's thrilled. I mean, he's beyond honored. He would have loved to have been here. He was obviously coming back from Ankara, and you guys covered that trip incredibly well. But beyond excited, and he's certainly humbled by it.
And he was the first plane to land at 5:01 this morning on Thursday. And dozens of different airports around the country are named after a president, but Trump is the first to receive this distinction while still in office. And another component to Palm Beach International being renamed after President Trump is the name of it. The acronym is now DJT, as you can see from the FAA saying effective today, Palm Beach International 3-letter location identifier has changed PBI to DJT following the court's official renaming. The FAA systems and publications reflect the new identifier. Pilots, air traffic controllers, and aviation stakeholders should use DJT for flight planning and operations. So a major development in South Florida for this. As we talk about the other airports that include John F. Kennedy in New York, for example, renamed for the late president a month after his assassination. Ronald Reagan, Washington National Airport in D.C. added in the late 1990s, a decade after he left office. So following that closely here on Live Now from Fox, the finally state law going into effect, allowing that name change to take place. Artem Mack, a live picture in Washington, D.C. here on this Thursday.
Folks, the investigation into the death of 19-year-old Nolan Wells is ongoing and increased.
Dang, that story that was, oh, no, we are not doing Roland Martin. No. I tried to catch my video before it shut off, but I missed it, so I'll have to do it like this. Oh, here it is. You love chocolate.
The NATO summit in Turkey coming to a close with President Trump dominating the event. declaring that he thinks the ceasefire with Iran is over. And the president making news beyond Tehran, including reviving his call for the U.S. to claim Greenland, announcing a halt to trade with Spain, which he later softened, promising to remove Syria from the State Department's state sponsors of terrorism list, and giving Ukraine a license to manufacture Patriot missiles. Joining us now to react is former U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Kay Bailey Hutchinson. Madam Ambassador, thank you so much for joining us. So the president certainly dominated the summit in a way that only he can. And he started the day by saying that he was not happy with NATO and ended it by praising the alliance and saying that there was a lot of love in the room. So clearly he's happy with how this summit went. What were some of your top takeaways?
Well, I think you have set it out right there. He started out tentative, as he is about NATO. But at the end, I think he acknowledged how much the Europeans are doing in their own defense, which is what he's been asking for. And he acknowledged that. I thought it was very positive. And then I think, too, some of the major accomplishments were the two bilaterals in which the press was included with al-Sharaa in Syria and taking Syria off the terrorist list for what he is doing there, I think is very important for helping to settle down somewhat the Middle East. But also, I think working with President Zelensky, I think the president is now very respectful of the efforts that President Zelensky has made. The fact that he is trying to be helpful in the Iran situation as well was also acknowledged. And so I think it was a very successful summit, and it was one that met the goals of the Secretary General from the beginning, which was to show unity of the alliance.
And when it comes to President Zelensky, here is the major announcement that President Trump made when it comes to Ukraine. Listen to this.
We're going to give a license to you to make Patriots. We haven't informed the company of that yet, but that'll work out all right. You know, I'm sure they'll be thrilled. But, you know, they'll be able to do it.
And when it comes to the president, it appears that he appreciates people who are successful and stay in the fight. And when it comes to Ukraine, they haven't just stayed in the fight. They are right now making gains. So how significant is this announcement that the president wants to give a license for Ukraine to make its own Patriot missiles?
I think it is great. I think we should be helping Ukraine in every way. They have shown so much patriotism and commitment and resolve. And they have shown that they can make drones. They're going to be teaching a lot of European allies, as well as us, how to make those drones and become effective. But they need the Patriot. And it is important, I think, that we have given them this license, because the ballistic missiles that Russia is using right now on Ukraine are very hard to repel without the Patriots. So I think it was exactly the right thing to do, that the president said that to Zelensky, and he said it publicly. And Zelensky deserves that kind of help.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the world's best air defense systems. It's something that Ukraine had requested, and request apparently granted by the president yesterday. They will certainly be putting them to use. When it comes to Spain, we heard the president yesterday say that he wants to cut off all trade with the country. And then later he went on to say this. Watch.
I did have issues with Spain, and I still do. But Spain came back all the way today. Spain was very generous today. You know, I told them I'm going to stop trading. They honored the request for lots of payment. And if they didn't, we wouldn't even talk to them. They were very bad. They behaved very badly, in my opinion.
Classic carrot and stick approach, Madam Ambassador. We're going to cut off all trade and then see what happens. And apparently Spain responded in a way that was positive, according to the president.
Well, yes, it was definitely a tactic that worked. And I think his complaints about Spain are correct. Spain has a very important base, an American base, a NATO base there. And they should be more helpful, and they should be a part of NATO that is much more weighing in a positive way. They're not even yet saying that they will commit to the 5%. And I think it is important that Spain step up. They have a lot of assets of NATO, And I think the president was right to have the stick, but also the carrot, because Spain is a good ally in many respects, and it was a good ending.
That's good. And listen, we've spoken for several minutes now. We didn't even get to talk about Greenland or defense spending, and that's just a product of literally how much news was made yesterday at this summit. Former U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Kay Bailey Hutchinson, we thank you so much for your time and for joining us. We very much appreciate it.
Great to be with you.
You're very welcome.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox.
We've spoken about Greenland. I think that would be amazing if we got Greenland. It makes sense geopolitically. It just makes sense for the United States to have Greenland. Greenland wants it. So you guys know I had to give you a little bit of the news, right?
Plattner, Victor Davis Hanson, Hoover Institution senior fellow. Victor, Plattner says he's, of course, he's stepping aside. Axios is reporting that he told his staff that he won't do it officially until Monday, which is the deadline to replace him. Something up his sleeve, perhaps.
Yeah, he said the word suspend, and I don't know what that means, whether it was a gracious way to say quit, but I doubt it. He's got 4 or 5 days to tell the Democratic orthodoxy that if you don't listen to me, I might just not take my name off the ballot. I might just stay in, and then you'll have to have a write-in third Democrat or second Democrat. He still has cards to play. They keep forgetting that. And you're right. I mean, the left-wing voters of Maine spoke. He won 70% of the vote. All that stuff about him with the violent sex, there was an earlier incident, and the texting and the sort of sick social media groupings that he joined, the Totenkopf hit, that was all factored in, Lord, in the primaries. And the left wing of Maine said we would rather have him, a quasi-socialist, with all that baggage over anyone else. And the Democrats had no problem with that. Only two things changed the atmosphere. And the first was, of course, as you pointed out, he started to sink in the polls the more that this came out. And he went from about an 8 or 9 point lead, if it really existed, because Susan Collins always under polls, to dead even, and then below Susan Collins, and that alarmed them. And then they had known of this second accusation, and they know that she was a liberal, so they couldn't tag her as some crazy conservative, vindictive former girlfriend. And when she came out and her allegations were a little bit more concrete, or at least more egregious, then they decided he was a liability and he was going to lose, and they leaked it to, or they got Politico to see if they could get him out. But it's not that easy to get him out, because he's a very strange character, and he's a very nihilist character, and he's a very mean character. And if he thinks they have treated him badly, he might just want to embarrass them and have his name on the ballot as long as he can hurt them. And he can hurt them if he does that.
Victor, it's very cynical of me to think this way. However, if he were up 10 points in the polls on Monday, do you think we would have seen that story in Politico?
No, and if they took a poll, Laura, over the weekend, and he's 10 points ahead, I think a lot of them would feel like they did after Al Franken. Remember, they forced him out?
Oh, yeah.
Because of that picture. And then all of a sudden they thought, oh, what have we done? That was a minor. It really wasn't Me Too. Now we're going to lose this seat. And they regretted it. And so we better wait till Monday to see what actually happens. And, you mentioned what they did with Biden, but Biden was nominated by the back room. They got rid of all the primary candidates within 2 weeks when they were scared of the socialists, Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and Pete Buttigieg. And then, of course, they did the same thing with Swalwell. So they have a pretty good record of removing candidates. But this time, they've never dealt with a guy like Plattner, who's a complete vindictive nihilist. And I think they're not out of the woods yet.
Now, maybe they should actually try, the Democrats, advancing policies that actually help the working people, instead of dabbling in all of this nonsense and obsessing on Trump. If they actually had a menu of ideas that have a track record of success in places like liberal utopia, California, That would probably be a better way to go, but they're just not going to do that. They're going to use the socialist energy for as long as they can until it gets really inconvenient for their rich donors. Then they're probably going to. Then they're going to probably do something. But this was the timing of all of this was just a little too cute by half. Victor, final word.
You're quite right. If they did that and they went back to Bill Clinton platform or moderation, they wouldn't need Pete Buttigieg with a caterpillar hat and a puff vest, and they wouldn't need Tallarico, and they wouldn't need this oyster man saying, I'm just a plain old oyster man. All these wealthy upper class people that are masquerading as a white working class. They're desperate for a white working class hero because their agenda is elitist, and they want to disguise it and mask it with somebody like old Joe Biden from Scranton, who then was a waxen effigy and gave us the most radical 4 years and really 100 years. So that's the problem. You're right. Their message is too elitist, too far left, so they have to disguise it with fake working class.
Oh, I love this. Victor, I'm enjoying every minute of this. Okay, this is playing out exactly the way I had hoped, without any victims. We don't want there to be any victims of any violence, obviously, but just their own internal struggles. It's so predictable. Victor, thank you very much.
Be sure to like and subscribe.
Oh, shit, what am I doing? Here you go. Did you guys hear about this one? Hang on.
Well, a disgraced Wisconsin judge gets just a slap on the wrist for helping an illegal migrant evade ICE.
So disappointing. Madeline Rivera has the details. Hey, Madeline.
Hi, good morning. That's right. Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan has been ordered to pay a $5,000 fine. She will get no jail time despite federal prosecutors asking for 15 to 21 months behind bars.
That's it.
Dugan was convicted of felony obstruction in December. Prosecutors say she helped Eduardo Flores Ruiz, who was in the country illegally from Mexico, escape federal agents as they tried to serve him a warrant at her courthouse last April. Ruiz was facing battery charges. He was later arrested after a foot chase outside the courthouse and deported to Mexico in November. FBI Director Kash Patel said of Dugan, no one is above the law. But before receiving her sentence yesterday, Dugan addressed the case and defended herself, saying she did not act with malicious intent. She says she was forced to retire, resigning in the beginning of the year after Republican state lawmakers threatened to impeach her. Her attorneys argued she's already suffered enough. She says she intends to return to public service. Guys, back to you.
Thanks so much, Matt. It's insane that during the sentencing, she expressed no remorse, and yet they gave her a light sentence. Who does that?
Right. How she avoided jail, I don't get it. Letting out a criminal.
Be sure to like.
Yeah, that was disgusting. Okay, you guys, let me give you one more, and then I'm gonna call it a night. I'm gonna call it a night with you guys. So we are way past my 2-hour mark. Hey, Justin, thank you. Okay, wait a minute. Can you guys handle one more? You're gonna go to bed. Well, I'm gonna go to bed. I don't know what you guys are gonna do. But thank you guys that hang out and rock with me. I appreciate you guys. Let me give you this.
Missile and drone storage sites. U.S. forces say they are trying to degrade Iran's ability to attack commercial shipping in the Strait of Hormuz after Tehran hit 3 ships earlier this week. The latest tit for tat comes as President Trump claims the ceasefire is over. Yet he also insists the attacks don't mean a return to war, and he indicates he will allow the peace talks to continue.
It's sort of crazy, to be honest with you. They're sort of crazy. They're a little bit out of control, but they want to make a deal. Badly.
Iran remains defiant. Their top negotiator saying America still hasn't learned that bullying and breaking promises are no longer cost-free. Let me put it plainly. If you strike, you'll get hit. Don't flail around pointlessly and you'll sink even deeper. The Strait of Hormuz will only open with Iranian arrangements, not American threats. A spokesperson for Iran's foreign ministry is also warning of grave consequences to U.S. allies that have helped with the strikes in Iran, saying Mark Rutte's repeated admissions of Europe's willful complicity in the U.S.-Israeli war of aggression against Iran only confirms once again that they were not impartial in this brutal, unlawful aggression. Yet the NATO Secretary General's relentless self-congratulation for serving an illegal war of choice does not reflect strength. It exposes the servile mindset of a fawning courtier who fancies that flattery can erase a king's contempt. The rhetoric and mixed messages raising questions about whether a peace deal can actually be achieved. Colleen Todd.
Questions indeed. Madeline Rivera, live for us in Washington. Maddie, thank you. All right, let's bring in Senior Fellow at the Independent Women's Forum and Council on Foreign Relations member, Dr. Kanta Ahmed. Dr. Ahmed, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. So it would seem that Iran is willing to risk escalation with the United States in order to maintain control of the Strait of Hormuz. So if this memorandum of understanding was a way to buy some time, that time may be coming to an end here.
I think Iran has been very clear in its actions. It is looking for war. It is not moving towards any kind of reconciliation with the region or the United States. The strikes last night are very significant. The focus has been on Hog Island in the media. That's about the size of JFK, 15 miles off the coast of Iran. It's where Iran exports and loads millions of barrels of oil. But the targets have been on nearby islands, Keshem Island, which is like Iran's floating aircraft carrier, infested with IRGC, fast boats, tunnels, all of their weapons. And the United States has struck that tremendously well. Also, Abu Musa, an island that belonged to the UAE in 1971 that's occupied by Iran. And most likely, some of these strikes have been staged from the UAE with the US to that region. So this is President Trump and our military tightening the noose on Iran, bringing it to understand that we really have you by the throat, we have you by the jugular, and we are going to pressure you to release the Strait of Hormuz and defang the military defense of Hog Island, the oil refining, or excuse me, oil exporting area.
Those specifics that you just mentioned, will that break them? And if not, what more do we need to break them?
I think the United States has extraordinary capabilities. While President Trump has been open to reconciliation, he's sending his negotiators, I think on July 11th, there's going to be more talks in Islamabad, led by our diplomats. He's very clear that Iran cannot be a nuclear power and cannot continue to jeopardize the whole Gulf region. Iran is attempting to hold hostage all of the world's oil infrastructure in Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, even Iraq's export capability. And there is much more that we can do. We can, and we have data on all of the missile cities that are around in 29 of Iran's 31 provinces. We can go more aggressively for various infrastructures that impact, unfortunately, power, energy, water. We are holding them to account. And we can see just this week, the Ayatollah's funeral has been held in ceremonial processions in Iraq. That is Iran projecting power in the region. That's the center of Shia religion, those important places in Iraq. So Iran is now no longer run by clerics. That was led by military nationalists. So this is becoming hardline, and we are meeting them with force, and we will bring them to heel.
So Iran retaliated by striking, they say, Bahrain and Kuwait. Talk to us about where our Gulf allies stand right now when it comes to this renewed fighting.
It's a great question. And I think this may have been underpinning some of the tensions in NATO. Our Gulf allies are vulnerable because they're home to some of the most valuable infrastructure that the world's energy depends on. They also have around them, around the shores, hundreds of desalination plants that the region depends on for drinking water. And so the United States is hoping, and Britain is stepping up, that we have more capabilities in the Persian Gulf, British capabilities, French, and so forth. But France and many of the NATO allies want to wait until the war is over, and that's not acceptable.
One final question before we let you go. It's the number one question that Carly and I get asked when it comes to the war in Iran. Can we end this war without boots on the ground?
So I feel we have remarkable capabilities and we have extraordinary allies. Particularly, let's bring to attention the allies of United Arab Emirates and Israel, which has not been fairly represented. It's been criticized publicly. So I do think we can put more pressure without endangering American lives further. However, with the amphibious assets in the region, I would not be surprised if after we've neutralized some of the defenses around these critical islands, that the United States troops, our Marines, may actually take some ground in order to increase pressure. That's not on mainland Iran. That's on those critical regional allies, which will open up the energy flows for the region.
Well, the president says the ceasefire is over, but that does not mean a return to war. So it's a fine line, and we are seeing how this country is walking it right now. Dr. Ahmed, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your insight very, very much. All right.
So we begin this morning in the Middle East as the military carries out a second night of airstrikes against Iran.
Greg Palcott joins us live from London with the latest on Iran. Greg.
Lawrence Bryan, gang. President Trump promised it, and the U.S. military delivered. Another night of airstrikes against Iran. CENTCOM saying some 90 sites were hit, including port cities along the Persian Gulf coast, an airport, and bridges further inland. The second night in a row of U.S. targeting. And that was followed again by Iranian strikes against U.S. military locations in 3 Gulf nations, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar. Missiles and drones used in those attacks. All this disruption of the temporary ceasefire between Iran and the U.S. triggered by Iranian hits on 3 ships traveling through the Strait of Hormuz earlier this week. Iran thinks it still has control there. On his way back from a NATO summit in Turkey, here's what President Trump said on Air Force One.
They're sort of crazy, to be honest with you. They're sort of crazy. They're a little bit out of control, but they want to make a deal. Badly.
In response, Iran's top negotiator, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, posted, America still hasn't learned that bullying and breaking promises are no longer cost-free. Let me put it plainly, if you strike, you'll get hit. Actual negotiations between the two sides regarding the 14-point memorandum of understanding had been paused for Iran's funeral proceedings for its former supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, killed in the first days of the conflict. The body, which had been carried in processions in next-door Iraq as well as Iran, is set to be buried today in his hometown of Mashhad. Folks, it's not clear whether all of this means the restart of full-scale conflict. Trump did add that anything that happens is going to happen very fast. Indeed, it is. Back to you.
Well, thanks so much, Greg. And then the day before, 70, so over 150 strikes in 2 days. I'd like to know details of it. We don't have the details of it, but the one thing is pretty clear. Whoever signs the 60 days memorandum of understanding on the Iranian side, they won't have any power. So we should not even pretend that they do. So let's just say the speaker is sincere, the foreign minister is sincere, that they hate us, but they don't want to fight us. They want to be able to unfreeze their funds. They want to be able to sell their oil at market rate. And let's say they want to control the strait, but they know that that will be problematic. The guy that's making the decisions is a guy from the IRGC, this Ahmed Fahidi. So we should not sit down with anybody else. This guy's as evil as it gets. But if we don't deal with him, we should not deal with anyone, because the supreme leader is too scared or too disfigured to come out of his bunker. He doesn't even go to his dad's funeral, so forget about him. So it's about this guy who's running the Quds Force and the IRGC commander. So because either these guys don't control it or they're just talking out of both sides of their mouth, but they refuse, as of this hour, they refuse to give up their gradual control of the strait, which is going to be a fee and toll system. And if you look at the memorandum, the MOU, it says that they're going to be managing this strait. We're not going to allow it. And that's fundamentally what happens. They hit 3 ships and they've absorbed 150 shots.
So part of the problem is that after we took out all the leaders, at least the first 2 levels, the Iranians had a goal, and the supreme leader left a plan to decentralize power. And I think this is by design. He realized that it would have brought them to the hill, and the IRGC has all the weapons, and they're firing on these shipping containers. And they realize, because of what we've telegraphed through the media, that the gas prices are going to be affected right there. And so they hope to pressure the president to make policy decisions strictly based on the gas price. And I think the president is annoyed with them right now. He realized that they're a bunch of liars. He's always realized that. But I also think there has been credible threats against his life. And it shows, Emily, that the president was quite angered by that yesterday.
Indeed. And he still has economic and many military options. So those that consider this an escalation leading to, quote, war, the reality is that they have quite a large hierarchy of decisions militarily that simply show the Iranians that when you strike, in the words of Vice President J.D. Vance, we will hit the hell out of you back. And the triage necessary right now is to maintain the Strait of Hormuz so that it's not subjected to piracy, right? We have to ensure the economic and the sort of navigable benefit of the Strait of Hormuz, because right now, if Iran is in control, that has that global impact. And when we harness the energy possible from it, then we show we, A, don't need them, but also that the rest of the world is aligned with us in ensuring that they don't hijack it.
If you don't want to be doing this up until November, you got to hit them hard now in July. You know, everyone's like, oh, it's too close to the midterms. They said that in May.
Yeah.
So now it's getting, you know, you hit them hard, give them everything. Now it's getting closer, but still, it's still July. But the smaller hits, let's talk about it, probably work to Iran's behalf, because there's reports that they want to make President Trump Jimmy Carter. They hurt Jimmy Carter, stopped him from getting reelected. Ronald Reagan comes in. They wanted Carter out. They want Trump out. But they can't get him out. But you know what they would do? They would take away a lot of his power by flipping the House and Senate, by making gas prices high. That's why July is so important. That's why 150 strikes shows the president's not more concerned about security than he is gas prices, but he should just hit them hard. And the price of oil goes up, but it'll eventually go down when we solve this problem. Retired Vice Admiral, Navy SEAL, Robert Harwood, grew up in Iran, led invasions in Afghanistan and Iraq, member of the Jinsa Iran Policy Project, joins us now. So when you listen to the president, you think he's evolved to where you're at, and that is you can't trust these people. They don't have legitimate aims, and they got to be stopped.
Without a doubt, Brian. And my phone was blown up yesterday from all my Iranian contacts. They're all cheering. They know the opportunity the president has. His use of force here is really reinstated that. It's also illustrated how weak the Iranians is in that they have not responded. And everyone knew at the end of the day from the historical content that Iran has never capitulated on anything. They've only worked to enhance their position, their financial status, and the president understands this. Right. I think he's come to that realization. And this first step of reconstituting the blockade is a critical component of that. He can now leverage all the elements of power, not only military, but more importantly, financial, and I think illustrated from his time as in Ankara, to build political support internationally and domestically to finish the job and go after the government of Iran.
So if you could pretend I'm a student at your war college class, let's take a look at this region. We hit 150 different targets over the last 48 hours. Where would you be looking at that would really get the attention of the Iranians? And that's usually in their wallets.
Well, again, I'd start outside the Gulf itself, where you're showing Chabahar, a city called Josk. That's risk-free almost. It's the hardest point in Iran for them to supply. There's a major port there. Start there. Take it out. Put boots on the ground if you'd have to. If you put any boots on the ground, and while I know there's risk involved with that, the message to the population of Iran that America is serious, they're going to finish this thing, is the indicator. So I work my way up into the Gulf, towards Keshem, towards Bandar Abbas, those areas, and all along the Gulf. Control that, and you can control Iran.
All right, so let's take a look at another map, because this is going to be some of the target-rich areas. But as we look at a different map, this is where the blockade was. This is what the Iranians want to control. What would we have to hit to push the Iranians back out of that?
All of those places in the Iran, and starting with the choke points.
Is this all mountainous, and are there rockets buried there? Are there drone sites, launch sites?
There's stuff dispersed, whatever, but that topography, there's your issue. That's the hardest part for Iran to supply, support, especially if you blockade and nothing's coming up. To move anything south from it, Tehran, from Tabriz, any of those other locations to reinforce and support that is difficult. So it leaves those assets on their own, dependent on those supplies and stuff they receive. And so we can easily control that. So yes, work your way up the Gulf, take out the coastline, but ultimately also hold Tehran at risk as well.
The capital. Because that's where the so-called brain trust is, which before this conflict started, they couldn't even deliver water. So I don't know what they're dealing with now. Admiral, we'll have to see where this goes, because now it is back to kinetic military operations, and it doesn't look like the IRG cares much, even if the foreign minister and speaker do. Admiral, thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Want even more Fox News on YouTube? Become a Fox News page.
You guys crack me up so much. Listen, so later today, I really do open panel type streams, but I'm supposed to do open panel later today. So I have to probably do 2 streams, a regular panel, and then my news. I don't know the order. So just make sure if you like this kind of commentary, you subscribe and you hit the bell notification. I don't know. My weekends are a little sporadic. Charlie Kirk, definitely watching that trial. There's a lot that's going on covering Iran, and we're still waiting on the Maduro trial. So there is a lot that's going on. Hi, Gerald. Navy, how are you? Were you in the Navy? Thank you for your service. I was in the Navy as well. Are we shipmates? Doc says, I remember when my friend got stood up on a day and what did I just say? Oh, you guys, I do thank you guys for rocking out with me. Empty coffin. I appreciate you guys. Our little community is growing. Thank you guys for supporting, the channel. With that being said, if you want to communicate with me, leave me a comment on my community wall. I respond to my comments or under any video. If you have a suggestion that you want me to cover, okay, everybody's welcome here. Everybody's welcome, regardless of your political affiliation. I try to be as non-biased as possible. We are definitely nonpartisan. I don't care where you come from. Thank you for your service. Yeah, Doc. How you doing, Joe? Thank you for your service. My nephew also said, oh, wow. Thank him for his service. Prayers. Keep him safe. Keep him safe. All right, you guys. We went a little over a couple hours. Mods, thank you for holding me down. You guys crack me up in the chat. Iceberg. Oh, welcome, Oscar. Welcome. We got some Claude. I'm going to keep my comment to myself. All right, you guys. Thank you for hanging out, and I will see you guys later. Stay safe. I'm praying for America, and I'm praying for all of you. Bye-bye. Hey, are we still friends? We covered a lot. Tyler Robinson is going to have a hard time getting off despite the conspiracies. And let me tell you something. Some people are getting so used to this YouTube type of, I don't know. I think that some of these people watch what's happening on YouTube and they forget that at the end of the day, just like with Carmelo Anthony, I hate to say it, when they are found guilty, they find themselves alone in a cell. And then they regret what's happening. Let's not forget the Luigi Mangione trial. There's a lot that's going on. All right, you guys, stay safe. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.